This very year, 2018, it is 45 years ago that the worst fire in the recent Danish history took place. The fire that turned out to be set cost a large number of human lives. It was Saturday, 1st September 1973. A dark autumn night had sunk over Copenhagen. At 2:40 a.m., the Copenhagen Fire Department informed the police that a fire was discovered at Hotel Hafnia in Vestervoldgade. Its popular location in the center of Copenhagen meant that it housed many foreign visitors. The informer who spotted the fire had seen a cloud of heavy smoke from the hotel by chance. He reported and said it felt like the whole building exploded at once. The flames almost jumped from floor to floor and ignited the very top floor in quite a few minutes. Until about 2 a.m., everything else at the hotel had the spirit of peace and idyll among the hotel's 83 guests who had arrived from the reception throughout the whole day. No one had noticed the man who almost slid through the entrance hall like a shadow. The mysterious man turned out to be a pyromaniac. He ignited some rubbish bags, and within 15 minutes the fire had scattered to 3 floors. The fire was not even close to be under control despite the fire department's early arrival. 34 hotel guests and 1 Dane perished. Many were rescued, but the ones who were asleep didn't survive. The police started the investigation and found the suspected murderer, Bent Nielsen. He was arrested. Bent Nielsen lived at the hotel permanently, but he checked in using a fake name. He was previously punished and had just been released from prison. All the witnesses had very conflicting explanations, and therefore the accusation was affected by the imprecise explanations. Some of the witnesses said that Bent Nielsen had been on the corniche of the building before everyone else, and some said that he had left the hotel quickly, also before everyone else. A following photo reportage from Ekstrabladet reveals that he had been rescued like everyone else, and after a little while the case was discontinued. This fact wasn't clear in the media, and Bent Nielsen was stamped from the society as a psychopath and a murderer, and had to live with the public judgment in the following years. The consequence of the fatal arson was stricted fire regulations in Copenhagen and the rest of Denmark, and the police who gave up in the research to find the pyromaniac who killed 35 innocent people.
Now we're moving forward in time till 1980 at May 20th. It was a hot, sunny afternoon. Everyone who lived at Fanø was heading to the beach, and so was the 15-year-old Annette Møller Thomsen, who lived on the island as well. A mysterious man walks around the dunes and the sandhills when he sees a couple having sexual intercourse. He walks by, but then he sees the young 15-year-old Annette Møller Thomsen lying in sunbathing, and the man becomes sexually aroused, and he forces sexual assault to her. He rapes her, and she desperately attempts to escape, but he hits her with a brick and ends up strangling her. The beach is crowded, and despite this, no one actually notices that she's being attacked. After the murder, he places a hand towel over her head and leaves her alone, lying there, dead. This crime scene is a busy beach, and tourists walk past her. Many people walk past her. They think she's lying there in sunbathing. They don't see anything suspicious or weird about it. At 3:30 p.m., a young couple walks by her. They notice her. At 3:45, Some German tourists walk by, twice even. They notice her as well, but they do not react. At 4:40, a dentist notices her, but he doesn't do anything. At 6:05, 3 hours later, some Swedish tourists walk by and notices some large blue welts on her thigh. No one reacts though. No one is thinking, that is a dead body. The young Annette Møller Thomsen was at school from 8 a.m., went home to have lunch at 11:30, after which she returned to school. At 1:15 p.m., she had been released from school and had got home. Here she had allowed to go to the beach and had promised her parents to be home at 6 p.m. When she was not home at this time, the parents became nervous, and the father went out to look for her. He looks for her everywhere on the beach, and after some search he found her in a dune with a hand towel over her head. The young girl was actually dead. If you lay on a beach in this summer at Fænø, any afternoon actually, it's crowded and you feel safe. I mean, you absolutely don't feel danger. You might wonder, why haven't anyone heard her scream? If you really think about it, what sounds would you hear on a summer's day? Many people, mostly children, scream when they hit the water, and water's cold and some boy chases some girl. So you might believe that no one noticed her scream due to the many sounds that you'll typically hear on a busy beach. At 6:40 p.m., the father finds her daughter. She's lying on her stomach. He tries to conduct first aid, but she cannot be rescued, and the father is, of course, deeply shocked. He runs towards a car and grabs his phone with his nervous and sweaty hands, and he calls the police.
Hello?
It should be noted that it is a very young girl, so it makes sense that the criminal police is conducting a search with 700 people on Fænø that summer. Ole Olsen was one of the 700. He was at the beach that afternoon, and he directly tells it to the police. Several days later, he regrets this statement. He claims that he mistakenly said something wrong. This action itself is suspicious according to the police department, and they interrogate him for 14 hours, and they make a hardcore effort in their investigation of him. The police are certain that Ole Olsen is the perpetrator. His blood type did match the blood on the brick that was used to hit Annette's head. And Ole Olsen said that he didn't remember what he was doing that afternoon. Everything was just a bit weird and suspicious. The police put one foot down when they said that there's not enough evidence to prove his guilt. It took 5 months before the preliminary charge clears. The fact that Ole Olsen has to live with a stamp that says he's a former suspect ruins his life. He leaves Denmark afterwards to wipe out his bad reputation. After this, the police give up finding out who murdered Annette. For now.
Because in 1982, a fireman perishes at a lighting factory. The fire is fixed and the police has no suspects. 1 year later, in the summer of 1983, a young woman dies of carbon monoxide poisoning after a pyromaniac has set a fire outside her apartment in Helsingør. The pyromaniac is rather active. Only 24 hours later, 3 tramcars at Helsingør train station is set on fire, and an employee has seen the perpetrator, a mentally disturbed man. The police then thinks that they have catched the final perpetrator, the man responsible for all the previous fires, and therefore tells the town that they can relax. Unfortunately, the peace doesn't last for very long. At 4 a.m. the same night, a garbage room is set on fire, and since they already has the former suspect on arrest, it must be someone else. They then investigate the man that they already have under arrest, and soon it becomes pretty clear that the man is nothing but a homeless, mentally disturbed, who just used the train wagons as a shelter for the night when the fire started as an accident. The police searches the whole town but fails at finding the one responsible. The population of the city must therefore remain to live in fear of the man now publicly known as the arsonist. 2 years goes by without any fire incidents, and the citizens eventually go back to their normal lifestyle without fear. Until, in a period of 6 months, from May to December 1985, the police have no less than 23 turnouts, all of them concerning fires set on different locations, such as factories, kindergartens, train wagons, riding schools, storage rooms, with more, all until the 1st of December, where the police catches the arsonist red-handed. He is literally caught with his pants down and a stick in the hand, masturbating. The man responsible for the fires is apparently a pyromaniac. He is addicted to fires. His name is Erik Solbakke Hansen, and he lives at an institution. Erik Solbakke Hansen has apparently been driving around on his bike with a can of gas, collecting garbage, setting it fire in different locations, and watches it while doing his work, as you might see. He is slightly retarded and confesses all of the fires with the blink of an eye. This makes the police suspicious. Why would he just confess it all? At the beginning, Erik Solbakke is only found guilty in the fire ratings, but Erik's mysterious behaviors lead to the police to continue their investigation of this man.
After a long time of unsolved investigation, it appears that he, with his other friends at the institution, were staying at Fanø the week where Annette was murdered at the beach. During their time on Fanø, they were not charged, not interrogated. They simply traveled back home after the murder. From here, it takes about 4 months where the Danish police department investigate all confessions and clues until they finally comprehend that both the intentional fire at the Hafnia Hotel, the murder on Annette Møller Thomsen on Fanø, and the 23 massive fires in Hillerød was caused by the same man, Erik Solbakke Hansen. It seems like he likes to talk about it. He tells the police department quite a few details that have not been disclosed, both from the fire ratings and the murder. He tells where he's got the brick from at the beach. And he tells details that makes the police certain about their charges. In all this time, from 1973, when the fire struck at Hotel Hafnia, until the disclosure in 1986, Bent Nielsen and Ole Olsen has lived with the rest of the world's impression of them being dreadful criminals who killed aggregately 38 lives. These 2 men are going to live with the accusations for the rest of their lives. They finally get their redress. Erik Solbakke Hansen commits more than 23 arsons, but he also kills a young girl. An assumption of this is that the coincidence might be the sexual, the perversities, the unresolved. And when he sees the girl at the beach, it simply escalates. The police can tell that he's definitely not well-functioning and normal. It's the way that he tells something and then he suddenly oppresses in the moment, like he forget what happened. A bit like out of sight, out of mind attitude. It does not seem like he feels guilty for killing 38 people. When you imagine a serial killer, you might imagine Jack the Ripper. But this man, Erik Solbakke Hansen, is, in fact, the worst serial killer Denmark has ever experienced. With 38 lives on his conscience, parents, children, whole families has wiped out. He did not have an intention of killing, but something must have forced him. It is common that the killings are the trophies, but for Erik Solbakke Hansen it was the actual moment, watching the flames and the sirens from the emergency responses, but we'll never know why he murdered Annette Møller Thomsen. Erik Solbakke Hansen died in 1997, sick and alone.